Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today, I've got two heavy hitters from Ambient Enterprises. Kati Walcott, she's a chief technology officer. I've got also Jeff Marek, he's a chief executive officer. And before the break, we were talking about the process to create Ambient Enterprises and software to protect you as an artist. We're going to talk about how it works here in a minute, but first, Jeff, before the break, I asked, we got to know a little bit how Kati's mind works and how she solves problems and develops these great technologies along with you. And how do you work? How does your mind work, and how do you approach a new company like this and a new, finding solutions to this issue that's out there about protecting artist rights and monetizing it?
I think there's two things that jump in mind. One is I think everyone has to figure out their style in their life of how they can actually think and not follow kind of the common logic. When I was way back when I was in college and in engineering classes and whatnot, I wasn't the greatest student. It took me a little while to figure out. At one point in time, the silliest thing, I had VCR tapes. And I had movies on my VCR tapes and other things I was recording, and I couldn't. And this is back when VCRs had little counters that scrolled, and so it was really tough to get to the second or third thing I had on a tape. So I got engrossed in the problem, and I ended up using mathematical functions to statistically plot graphs and do some things to basically figure out mathematically where the tape would start based on the time. And I had to ask the professor a question, and I found myself in front of, I don't know, a couple hundred students teaching this concept. Now, keep in mind, I was not a good student 3 weeks prior, and now I'm the lead. So my experience from that was my brain only works in the context of solving a problem. If you ask me to go look at a technology or something else, if I have no reason for it, I can learn nothing. I might as well not even read the pages. So I have to get my brain into that state of mind. For me, the trick that I will suggest to the audience members and others is you have to use your entire brain. So generally, when I'm thinking of solutions or trying to do a business plan, I'll do it on the computer. I will stop. I have a whiteboard or a piece of paper, and I redraw the exact same plan, presentation, slides on a piece of paper. And and you can't use a computer because the act of drawing and using your hand uses the opposite side of your brain. Can't remember which side is which, but it forces the other half of my brain to engage. So I have to literally force it to engage and solve problems, and that's where I have huge amounts of breakthrough by engaging the opposite side.
That's crazy. That's great. That makes sense though. And you guys are a great team. That's what you just defined why you're such a great team together, didn't you?
Pretty much.
So I was thinking about the technology that, okay, so here's the problem. We all create things. We've got photos, music to, videos, artwork, different things, and there's no licensing, there's no protection. By the way, that's a little puppy called Sigizo, who is in the studio with me today, making some noises. He's my co-host. I guess he had a question for you. Were we meant to be here at this point? Like, you've got this problem, these complicated problems, and then now you're creating a company to find solutions to protect us all. Is it that we keep creating and then we need to create solutions, or is it like, have we changed or have we not changed too much back from, like, I was thinking of the cavemen that suddenly realized that the stick was a tool that they could get the termites out, right? Is it sort of like that in a way, where there's this technology, there's this problem, and then we got to come up with a solution?
Well, I think I tend, you have different views of the world. I tend to think that most people are genuine hearted and want to do the right thing out of the get-go, but things can go very wrong. Best laid plans of mice and men, so to speak. So technology moves extremely fast, and it outpaces our intelligence on a regular basis. So, the idea of being able to the idea of being able to take photographs with a digital camera and not have to pay for 35 millimeter film, that's pretty cool. The ability to have a computer artistically lighten it and take someone who's a poor photographer like myself, and all of a sudden I can take a picture of my kids. Fantastic ideas. Nowhere in that process did we think about, it's not really clear who owns that picture, right? And how do I keep track of that? It is a matter of the technology getting ahead of the people from where we're at. Kati, I know you have lots of feelings on this one.
Yeah. So what's interesting is when you, as Jeff was saying, you take that 35 millimeter film and you take a picture and you have that film developed and you have that picture in your hand, there is no third party in the middle of that process who is taking possession of that content. When you are taking a digital picture, there is that submit button that you hit on your phone when you turned it on the first time that essentially signs away some of your rights on that digital content, because that digital content becomes a file, and that file has to be stored somewhere. And there is this thing, and I don't know who said this first, I can't quote it, but possession is 9/10 of the law. And even though you have the intention of taking that picture, that file is stored and therefore possessed by somebody else, by a third party. So they have the ability to do things to that you don't have any control over. It is stored somewhere. It is copied. It is potentially transmitted. It's potentially sent to a third party, and that third party may have sent it somewhere else. So you don't know where those files have gone.
That's scary,
and
isn't
whether
it?
or not it's purposefully or unintentionally, it's on the internet and you have no idea where it went.
What should we be thinking as creators? What should we be thinking about when we put stuff out there? Is there, I know what you mean. I know, like Facebook and Instagram, it's theirs, right? You put a photo out there, it's theirs. They have the rights to it. Not that I don't know if they'll ever do anything nefarious with it or evil with those images, but they really own them. Once you put them up there, they have the rights. And with our phones, everything we start to say, you know what, that's okay, I got to use it. So you approve it. You approve all these different contracts without reading them, and we agree to things. What should we think about? Like, is it your company that will solve this problem for us, or is there something we should do? What should we be thinking about when we post and when we create?
Well, I'll start with this. We are severely outgunned. So let me be clear about one thing. I don't think companies are not inherently evil. Apple, in this example, does a great service. They give you a great device. They help you take really nice photos. They keep track of them. There's a lot of value. The issue starts coming in when the relationship between the individual and the company is totally unbalanced. And it's been unbalanced for some time. You don't really have much of a say with Instagram about how they use your content, or LinkedIn, or any of these services that provide value. So that's part one. Part two is that no human can keep up. I don't know if you've ever tried to read the terms of service. In fact, there's only one person in the world who I know has actually read the terms of service to all the places they belong to, and she's on this call.
Is that
but
Kati?
In general, absolutely.
I read the term of service once, and then I wrote an AI that does it for me.
So, and herein lies the answer, right? Which is, life actually gets harder with the introduction of AI, because now these companies that already have an imbalance have a ridiculously powerful tool, and that genie will not go back in the box. So our viewpoint is very simple. Use that as a power for good and to balance some of it. So, you asked two questions. The first one is, we will bring capability and technology that will augment your ability. If I were to tell you, go read all the terms and conditions, nobody's going to do that, right? You can't, and you can't keep up. Even trying something as simple as filing takedown requests or trying to get rid of fake accounts. Right? Fake accounts is a huge problem for anybody who's posting material and starts to become well-known on any of the social media services. Trying to keep up with that is almost impossible. So we'll bring technology to bear that will help you do that, right? It is a problem that was caused by technology. It'll be solved by technology.
Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But just right on that point, would your technology, would it come first? For instance, if I signed up on Instagram, to use an example, would your technology be on what I've already downloaded, or be subscribed to your technology so that it's protecting me going forward as I add new apps, or does it come after the fact, after I find fake accounts? Or how do you use it? Both, or both?
You should weigh in here, but at the risk of sounding too complex, our data and digital assets, there's a lot of it, and a lot of it is already out there in the wild, right? Trying to recover what's in the wild that's already going across the internet that's a very difficult task, right? It's kind of the horse has left the barn, so to speak. The technology itself, you would apply to your data early in the creation process, and then you would use it throughout the life cycle. Kati, you're passionate on that point, so I'll pause.
Yes. So one of the things that is important to note is that when data is created today, data is created in a way that is free to access. And we use different technologies like data management or data retention or archival or security in order to put functions on top of it in order to achieve a goal. But if you think about the process of anonymization, because there are a lot of companies who use that in order to keep some of your private information private. What's really important in that is that anonymization happens on data that was already collected. So in that process, somebody already has your data. So it may be that your medical provider wants to send anonymized data forward, but the data that they've already received is not anonymized. So they are in the possession of that anonymized data. So to answer your question, there has to be a shift, what I call a shift left. So we have to shift to the other side of this creation process and begin the creation process in a way that the data and the way that the content is collected is done according to the rules that you set. So we created this process that allows you to become the creator of content and then restart that picture with the rules and conditions that you say. So if you say, I want my data to be collected in an anonymized fashion, then whoever gets that content doesn't actually have to anonymize again because they never collected the data to begin with. So this is one of the major shifts. So that's part of the first question. But then the second question is, we cannot go backwards in time. Just like there is on the internet, there is something called the Wayback Machine, right? The Wayback Machine has one of each. One of the interesting things at the moment our technology is getting to the industry is the Wayback Machine is going to start getting a little amnesia. So you will have this point in time in the next year and a half where there will be data that you will not be able to do a Wayback Machine on. Because when you look at back from, into 2025, from 2028, there will be pieces of data that the Wayback Machine is not going to have access to. Not because they are nefarious or they are bad, but because the terms and conditions that you set, Jeremiah, or I set, or the artist sets, is going to state this data is private. So you cannot read it or examine it in order for the Wayback Machine to be able to get to it.
Oh boy.
I want to go back and answer a very specific question you asked, which was very tactical, which is what can people do today? Mm-hmm. My very simple advice to people is in your quest for visibility, which is really what you're doing with the social media folks, be cautious. Whatever you post there, it's gone, right? Today, until we can establish some controls, it's gone. So be careful you don't publish everything in your knowledge. And the second would be AI is extremely popular and it does all kinds of amazing stuff. And you are going to be enticed in the next 24 months to shove your data into the AI machine provided by whomever, and it will make your pictures prettier. It will make your business plan better. They will promise you all kinds of stuff. Anything you feed to the AI right now, it will be, technical term coming, it will be slurped up and it will be gone into the collective intelligence, so to speak. So be very cautious of your content in the next couple of years. If you know, I was teaching a class on AI here recently, and I have a slide in there that would talk about what rights you sign away to OpenAI. And I was updating it on a weekly basis, and then it was every 2 days, because the terms and conditions about what they'll do change. I'm not throwing rocks at them. They're figuring out their business model, but I couldn't keep up with it. And if I can't keep up with it, you probably can't. So my advice to everybody is just don't give away all your thought and all your leadership away to AIs in the near-term future. Any question you ask or anything that you feed it is gone at the moment right now.
When will your services be available? Are they available now, or are they still in development?
It's in development, so we're doing
And
pilots.
probably
and testing
will
with
constantly
folks.
be developing it, right? As things, trying to keep ahead of it, really.
Exactly.
Wait, do you have to take a break? But I wanted to ask a quick question before we go out. Back to, posting your photos, your art, the things that you put out there, maybe your thoughts on business and things like that. Where is there an example of these companies where they actually use your stuff without permission? Because I've never been scared of that, really. Although I know I'm giving away permission to my photos, things like that. But are there examples of, does that happen, or is it just collected in there?
It happens. It happens all the time. And you gave just a minute ago, you were talking about Instagram, and I'm not picking on Meta here, but in their terms of service, when you upload a picture and you're already in their environment, so you're driven by and managed by the user license agreement, when you upload that picture, you actually sign a separate agreement that gives them the right to essentially send that content to a third party if they want it. And if you decide that you're going to delete your picture and you're going to delete Instagram, that doesn't stop that picture from being released. And most of the time, you don't know who those third parties are. And if you ever read the terms and conditions on your cookies, it lists some of the third parties, and some of those third parties are data brokers whose job is to connect and send your data to other third parties that you don't know about. So you're opening up, that's a phenomenal question. And frankly, neither one of us on the phone can answer where your data goes, because we cannot trace and track it until we put our technology in place, at which point the data will track itself.
Words of caution, words to live by. Very good advice, and very giving us some good thoughts, some good things to think about. I don't know if they're good thoughts, but there's definitely something to think about. And all, I think it's a testimonial and to your technology. Ambient Enterprises. Kati Walcott, Chief Technology Officer, is with us today. Jeff Marek, Chief Executive Officer. Ambient Enterprises are solutions to give you back control of your digital life. Ambient Enterprises' innovative data infrastructure and services allow you to manage, protect, and monetize your data assets with unparalleled control, accuracy, and transparency. Go to ambiententerprises.com to learn more, and we will be right back.